In the most digitized country on earth, leaving your house without a phone basically means you are physically logged out of society, your identity, your credit, your right to buy a simple glass of water, all trapped behind a 6-inch glass screen. Today I decided to cut the cyber umbilical cord. This is my 24 hours, wandering the digital wasteland as an analog human. 9 a.m. I pressed the power button and locked it in the dark. In that moment, it didn't feel like I was just leaving my wallet behind. It felt more like I was voluntarily amputating an electronic organ. A strange mix of panic and relief began to set in. I walked down to the local bun shop. Usually during the 3-minute wait, I'd scroll through dozens of short videos, reply to work texts, stuffing my brain with fragmented dopamine. But today I could only stare at the steam rising from the bamboo baskets. When your eyes lose the focal point of a screen, you realize your gaze actually has nowhere to land. Taking that first bite of xiaolongbao, it hit me. This was the first time in a long time that I put 100% of my attention into the act of chewing. Without the background noise of short videos, I could actually hear my teeth tearing through the dough. When I handed over that lonely paper bill, the owner froze for a second. In an era where you have to scan a QR code just to buy a green onion, pulling out cash feels like performing some ancient forgotten ritual.
扫码现金可以吗？谢谢，拜拜。
After breakfast, the system started showing its cold side. Without GPS telling you where to turn, without an app tracking your footsteps. Wandering through this city suddenly feels devoid of meaning. I walked into Hancheng Park. No notification buzzes, no missed calls. Time here suddenly severely expanded. Normally, scrolling away half an hour is just the blink of an eye. But now, lying on a park bench, staring at the leaves overhead, 10 minutes felt as long as an entire afternoon. I watched the people around me. Young people taking photos, old people strolling, yet I felt like an outsider, left behind by time. I tried to fight the boredom by sleeping, but free from the anesthesia of digital information, my brain was wide awake. When thirst finally hit, I ran into today's biggest physical barrier, a glowing vending machine. It was full of water, but I couldn't get any. No coin slot. Just a massive QR code on the screen, almost mocking me. Standing in front of this glass, the cash in my pocket turned into a pile of worthless paper. It wasn't just about failing to buy a bottle of water. It was the system explicitly telling me, you don't belong here. You are unauthorized to access this physical world. Since the algorithm was no longer spoon-feeding me nearby restaurants, and the machines had rejected my transactions, I had to devolve back to the primitive age, solving my survival problem the oldest way possible, asking another human being for help, opening my mouth to ask for directions, actually took courage because we are so used to facing screens, not real human eyes. Luckily, I found this Bazi Rue joint. My battered analog body desperately needed the highest calorie physical comfort. Look at this piece of meat, it's so real, so raw, bathed in thick soy sauce, the fat glistening under the light. The moment I put it in my mouth, the explosion of salt and fat instantly filled the massive void from this morning. No matter if the outside world is sprinting at 5G speeds, or if everyone is living in the cloud, At least in this moment, this bowl of rice and this piece of pork are a solid, undeniable reality. This was my first true victory today, earned simply by talking. Carbs and fat brought immense satisfaction, but also a bizarre side effect. Free from the control of my phone, with no pending tasks rushing me, I suddenly regressed into a child. In the playground, I found myself fighting for the slide and monkey bars with a bunch of toddlers. No need to maintain an image. No thought of posting this to social media. That ridiculous feeling of sprawling out on the slide was the most genuine laugh I've had in years. When you aren't confined by a screen, your body actually craves to touch metal, to feel the wind, to experience gravity. Exhausted, I sat at the bus stop. Usually while waiting, we all look down. Today, I had no choice but to look around. And then I met him, a street fortune teller. In an era where everything is predicted by big data, where algorithms know what you want to buy tomorrow, this ancient art of divination felt both absurd and captivating. I had no phone to Google his tricks, no internet to fact-check his words. I watched his callous hands write my future on red paper. Honestly, whether it's accurate doesn't matter at all. What matters is that in these offline 24 hours, I handed my fate over to a few rusty coins instead of a cold search engine.
哎呦，这手啊！啊，气死我了！哦，挺好的。
As night fell, the city's alter ego awakened. The night market is the ultimate concentration of human desire. But tonight, all I saw was a cyberpunk painting. In front of every store were faces illuminated by the cold light of smartphone screens. Scan, beep, efficient, precise, zero small. I felt like a caveman who had wandered into the Matrix. Sitting on the grass, using a physical spoon to silently dig into a green cake. The air was loud with voices, yet I felt an unprecedented physical loneliness, because I couldn't tune into their loud, constantly interacting digital frequency. I hid in a bookstore trying to find a shred of security in the weight of physical paper, because they don't need a battery and they don't need a signal. Finally, the 24-hour challenge was over. I returned home, sat in the dark, and brought out the sealed machine. I held the power button. The screen lit up. I thought that after a day of this monk-like existence, I could face it calmly. But the second the network reconnected, countless messages, missed calls, red notification badges rushed at me like a flood. The phone vibrated violently in my hand, and the sheer pressure of it made me instantly suffocate. I didn't escape after all. The moment the screen lit up, I knew I had been recaptured by this era.